what has changed, do you think, in the last 3 years? And I'll kind of seed that with this graph at the top. So I pulled Google search terms from starts March of 2021 to March of 2024. So this is search terms for self-storage and storage units in the state of Alabama over that time, right? And it jumps out to you. There was a peak in basically July of 21. You could also argue those maybe peak valuations, but it's a steady trend downward, right, of people who are looking for storage units. So demand's down. And that has all sorts of implications of, how we want to operate our business as operators. But beyond that sort of general, but the other thing too, I would say is like, you can't really see it, I guess, the way it shows, but I tried to highlight a year ago, so April 1st last year. There's two little dots there, but we're still down, seasonally from where we were just a year ago. And so don't really have a crystal ball of where it's going, but the trend is not our friend currently. And so, we'll talk about, the impact this has, but I guess any other bigger points that people want to mention about what they've seen change in their business over the last couple of years that people have had a facility for a little bit. Anybody want to? Worst behavior? Like people, like you had mentioned, you have tenants renting units and breaking into units, right? I guess, yeah.
See it for 7 years.
Just worse behavior overall.
Yeah, so security is a bigger issue.
I think people are more desperate, so they're, trying to live and break in and things like that.
Are you getting more people living in units or trying to live in units?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, kind of taking a zooming out, right? The COVID impact on storage operations. I think, so I bought my first facility right at the beginning of 2020, so great time to jump in, which it actually was, I guess. But I don't think that we necessarily, people who were like some of the early people here, Mike's model of call center, boots on the ground, ESS, that was still a little bit novel. Like people were not comfortable with like remote operations, generally speaking, right? Bigger operators didn't like the idea. They couldn't figure out how to operate it. But smaller, entrepreneurial folks, that's just kind of what we did, what we entered in. When COVID happened, those of us who were in the business, everybody had to shut their offices. Nobody could rent units, but we were the only ones open. So that was a huge boon for our businesses, right? I don't think we necessarily realized it at the time. It was business as usual for us, but our competitors, a lot of them were shut down. And now, since that time, there's been a huge change in the operations of how these companies are running. They're running it like us. That also means they're willing to go into markets that maybe they weren't willing to, go into before. So I see, it's been good if you're selling, right? Because there's more bigger players willing to come into some of these markets. But I would also argue that the competition we're up against is much more sophisticated. It's only going to become more so. Obviously, interest rates are up. Supply, again, boom in building, built conversions as well. So more supply is out there. Demand is down, as we can see in this trend. Street rates varies, but there's a lot more movement in it, I would say. Generally, if you look nationally, street rates are down though. I think almost everybody here has said their occupancy is down. Customer expectations have probably changed. I think especially like, just with online behaviors, right? More broadly, consumer shopping behaviors. I'd say technology has changed. AI really wasn't in the conversation when we got into the business. Now it's more and more. Google's changed how they, rank you. And the cost to acquire a customer is up. So the question is, what are you doing to counter these trends so you can continue to thrive with, whatever the future holds?